What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fight Song College Football Show. Another off-season episode is upon us, and this marks episode 100 for the boys. It was actually last week. However, JP had a conflict, so here we are, full in studio. Almost the whole crew. Reese is still away, but we should be back soon. But 100 episodes in, gentlemen. How are we doing tonight? We're ready to recap a little bit of our experience trying to build a show and also talk college football while we're doing it, JP.
Yeah, pumped. A little bit of a break almost. Just had some scheduling conflicts. The summer gets started and kicked off a little bit. Dog even forgot how to podcast. He's going through his crazy phase right now. So excited to talk through college football. There's some big news that has dropped in the last week or so, and it's got to get talked about. And we want to give our perspective here as people with on the outside of the sport, which is why we started this show. The outside, we're diehards. We care about all 136 teams within this thing, and you get a lot of different inputs from a lot of different people, and a lot of people who protect the side of college football, and the others who just protect their school, and then others who are just looking for money. So hoping to give a different perspective on this kind of stuff.
All right, Jake, 100 episodes down, 101 now, probably 100 different attempts at a microphone that works. Will it work tonight? How are you doing?
Well, it better, because we're just doing the old input headphones. So if this breaks out, I'm just quitting the podcast altogether. I don't think we've ever had any troubles with this, but it makes me sound a little quieter. But I mean, as long as it doesn't sound like a choppy robot, I'll take it, because I'm to the point where we've got to go all in. I think we are fully immersed in college football. Also, shout out to Jay Bird. Pretty sure I saw him in the comments on Two Guys named Chris today. So when I heard him say his name, I was like, "Oh, Jay Bird, that's our guy." So kind of funny.
Jay-Bird, get Two Guys to listen in here. We listen to them all the time
too. Bring their audience over here.
Hassel needs a little bit of a learning or thing or four on the college football scene. He loves it, but some of his ideas and takes are just a little out there for us. Hey, and we're all Iowa people. We're going to count Parks as an honorary Iowan. Went to school in the state of Iowa.
I don't think I'm letting him. You're not. I'm not.
I don't want that shit.
I don't
know what you guys are talking about.
You can't be a part of the collab episode then. You got to be.
Is there a cup involved in that show? Why is it named that? What's the point?
They're both named Chris. Two guys named Chris. So
Jake got my got.
Yeah, I got what you're saying, but
yeah,
I think they got in a copyright thing when they first started. There's another show somewhere,
because there is another show called before theirs. There is one,
but
you know what there isn't.
You're listening to the one and only Play the Fight Song. You were listening to the one and only Play the Fight Song, 101 episodes in. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Get us to 900 by the end of the show tonight. Grinding out content on there. We need 9 people to go into our YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If it's your first time listening, just do it. If you love college football, it's the place to be. It's college football all the time here. None of that talk about the NFL unless we're bashing it. So get on there, hit the subscribe button, hit follow on all platforms. It's all at Play the Fight Pod across the board. Check us out on TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. We're there. Consistent college football content. It's just going to get better throughout the summer as we lead into some awesome college football topics. And, of course, preview season, which is coming near soon. Your 2 plugs, get your stickers. They're still available. $10. You get these beautiful stickers delivered to your doorstep. Your ball, your important one that you can only get if it's coming from Play the Fight Song. And then the beautiful logo and the PTFS to represent however you may for being at AWL, and we appreciate that in advance. Also, Shop No Rivals, our great partner over at No Rivals, is sending us some new gear. We will debut that when it comes in, but they have some awesome new designs coming out. If you're a college baseball fan, check out their ballpark collection, brand new retro-looking CWS design. It's awesome, and use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on all of that awesome headwear. Shout out to the awesome team over there. Looking forward to our continued partnership through next season with them. All right, gentlemen, let's go into the show. Let's go into question of the day. This one's fun. I believe JP made this up. The most underrated. Oh, you did, Jake? Nice. Okay. He's not giving any credit out. The most underrated coach in college football is blank. JP, fill it in.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways you could go about this. I took it as someone who's doing less with more and or just doesn't ever get the national spotlight. I'm going to go with the Service Academy here. How about Jeff Monken? I think he's a guy who just started to bleed West Point and has just stayed there, and he will be happy if he retires there. But, no doubt about it, he's had offers to have a chance to go coach somewhere else within the college football world, whether that be, other group of 5 schools that spend a little more money on their athletic facilities and their athletics, or maybe a lower P4 job somewhere down the line. Maybe it was a coordinator situation. But to do it well for that long at a service academy where, you're limited on the kids you can bring in, you're starting to see more kids leave. Like if they have a great sophomore year and they're projectable into the NFL and otherwise, they're starting to leave before that, that requirement jumps in for one of the academies and Army specifically. So Jeff Monken was the first one that came to mind when this question was asked. I don't know how original the answer is there, but I think that one is, he's going to end up high on everybody's list of just overall coaches within the sport. And I think doing it at a service academy, and you could pick any of the service academy head coaches for all I care for this, but I'm going to go with Monken because I feel like he's done it. And I think he's the best of the 3 right now.
You got to be a true love for the sport guy to be at a service academy in today's football. So I love that pick. I kind of went on a different route where I tried to think, recency bias aside, Mike Gundy is one of the better coaches still out there in college football. If you take out last season, he hasn't had a losing season since 2005 at Oklahoma State. He has 7 10-win seasons or more, 6 New Year's 6 bowl games. Like his resume over the time there is great. And I don't want people to just look at last year where you don't win a conference game and they're just abysmal compared to what they should have been and be like, oh man, Mike Gundy's washed. And then he goes out and has that, not great way out and leaves a salty taste in college football fans' mind where he's like, oh yeah, that's that guy that just couldn't win in the NIL era. Like, no, he was an excellent coach, still one of the best out there in college football, but he kind of gets lost behind all the names today. Saban retired, but like Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, and all these names come in, but like Mike Gundy's still there and he's been winning for a while there. So you should expect Oklahoma State to get back in the mix here shortly if he can figure things out. But Mike Gundy was my first pick of he may not be underrated, but he's not talked about enough for what he's done, and he's still going. So Mike Gundy's my pick. Who you got, Jake?
Now that you both have given yours and both make great points for why those guys are your answer, it kind of makes me go back on mine a little bit, but I'm still going to throw his name out there. He's so young into his coaching career, but I think John Summerall is the most underrated coach in college football. Maybe a bad pick because I think he has another good year. His name's going to be thrown around in a lot of jobs. So maybe people are going to recognize what he does. But
I don't think right now, I think you're right. I don't think a lot of people would even have that name come to mind when you talk about coaches.
And people would be like, well, he's just he had a decent season. They didn't win the AAC, but he's riding on the coattails of Willie Fritz. But he won back-to-back, 11 and 12 wins at Troy. He won 11 and 12 games at Troy, where it's really, really hard to win. You saw that this year after he left. And then he still had a really good 9-5 season. And he's been able to develop guys. And I think a credit to him, he's put some guys in the NFL from Troy. I think Mekhi Hughes and Darian Mensah are going to be really good players at their respective schools. That's still a credit to John Summerall and developing them and taking them up to the next level. And again, I think we're going to talk about them in preview season. They're definitely in the top 3 or 4 to win the AAC again this year. So he's won everywhere he's gone. He's only been a head coach for 3 years, but he's going to be one of those guys. I could see it being like Kirk Cinetti, where wins at JMU for a while. Maybe he stays at Tulane for a while. And then once he finally makes that jump at whatever school he does, I think he's going to win there too, just because he's a young guy. And I think he translates really well in this era.
All 3 good picks across the board, different reasons for each, which I like. So a lot of diversity in tonight's question of the day answer. Go ahead.
Just the problem with some of the Power 4 coaches, right, is it feels like they're either graded on good, bad. There's not a lot of weighting.
And it's all year to year.
Yeah. So it's what have you done for me lately is whether I consider you a good or bad coach. Let's talk about Pittman after the 21 season. They're program changer. Now there's
Fleck?
Yeah. I think Fleck's in a better spot than Pittman, but he's literally year to year.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that's Power 4 is so hard to do because Gundy's it'd be like a Gundy, a Campbell, a Ferentz, those kind of guys that have been there extended amount of time. So you could call them underrated, but there are still people that would throw them into good or bad. You kind of getting thrown into 2 barrels when you're in the power conferences.
Yeah, I'm sure there's Oklahoma fans out there, other Big 12 fans out there that are like, yeah, but he never wins anything, right? Like you fall an inch short against Baylor in the Big 12 title a few years ago, and he just never won the big one, as many coaches get tagged to do so. So that's definitely a fair point. All right, that's the question of the day. Let's move on to recent news because this is going to take a lot of time up tonight as we had a ton of news drop in college football. Let's start a little lighter. Let's talk USC and Notre Dame, rumored to have their series coming to an end. They have played each other for a very long time. I believe it dates back to 1965. I could be off by a few years here and there.
1916.
16, sorry. See, a few years and maybe 30. That series has been going on forever. It's rumored to coming to an end just because of schedule conflicts. I've heard because they want to play later in the year in that November timeframe, which it's always been played because I learned originally the head coach at Notre Dame's wife wanted to take a trip out to Southern California in November. So that's what it stemmed on. And that's college football in a nutshell. They have weird games like that. Rivalry trophies stemmed from weird places. But this series coming to an end feels like a shot again at the average and old folk college football fan like us, where we like what the sport was established on. What do you guys think of it? Does it make sense? Do you hate it ending, JP?
I think it just takes one coach to just stand up and be like, I understand that for the benefit of this team to make a playoff every year, we're going to have to cut some of these games and schedule some nobodies. But somebody needs to stand up and be like, are we really here for the, like, with my job on the line or my thoughts or whatever? This is not good for the sport. You're ruining the reason I got into this. This is the reason I fell in love with it as a kid. You know, the reason that so many kids and parents and all these connections down the line of fans means so much to them, because there are these things within the sport. Like there's some coach that needs to stand up and do that and not just be like, oh, and just dance around and give a coach answer and coach speak, or one AD to say like, why would we do that? Like we got to spend money here. Like you got all these other conferences only playing 8 conference games and I got to play 10 or 11, power conference games because I have a couple rivalries. Like somebody has to stand up and do it. I was pretty frustrated with it because you hang your hat on the rivalries in this sport. That's just how this sport was built. It was built, like this is a little more unique in that it's not a regional thing that started rivalries, but it started, for other reasons, and it grew into one of the biggest and best in the sport. You cannot write college football history without having USC Notre Dame within it. But because people want to make sure they get a chance at these to play for a national title within these, these mega leagues, they want to cut games and they want to cut these ones that might hurt them. You get no benefit if you lose or if you win them, and it feels like you get killed if you don't. So it's frustrating, and I just don't think anybody's really come up to the plate and really battled for this and the health of the sport, which is it's disheartening in some ways. And it sounds like Notre Dame is on the side. They really want to keep this rolling. Obviously, they have more leeway in their schedule to do so. So they can play the Von holier than thou card, but it goes only a certain distance when you can make your own schedule every year. And USC's got to play to the power of the Big Ten and go that direction. And so it is tougher, but man, like it makes you think, like, what's the future of Iowa State's? What's the future of Oregon? Like those are already in jeopardy in some ways. Like there's a billion of these conference, like inter or intra conference games?
Intra-conference.
So like different conferences, right?
Let me ask you guys this. Outside of UCLA, which we know USC is going to be guaranteed to play every year because they're both in the Big Ten, who's USC's biggest rival?
It's Notre Dame.
Besides Notre Dame, like can't come to mind, right? So you're going to be, as of right now, when you're forced to play 9 Big Ten games, you still have to schedule 3 out-of-conference games. Why not put Notre Dame on your schedule every year? If you're looking for – I understand they're like, well, if we just win all of our Big Ten games and play 3 FCS schools, we'll get in the playoff. I mean, kind of. But if you think you're a legit playoff contender, wouldn't you want Notre Dame on your schedule every year? Like, wouldn't you not want to be afraid to play Notre Dame? As I'm wearing my Notre Dame shirt tonight, acting like I'm some Notre Dame fan. But you know what I mean? Like, if you don't want Notre Dame on your schedule, then you don't deserve to be in the playoff, in my opinion. Or teams like Notre Dame, not just Notre Dame specifically, because USC is not the only one who's going to start. I think they're not the last one to get rid of these rivalry games. JP just mentioned it. I could definitely see in 10 years, Iowa getting rid of Iowa State if the Big 12 kind of stays where it is, or South Carolina getting rid of Clemson if they stay in the ACC, things like that. So I don't think it's just these two, but it's super important for the future.
It's twofold for me because it reminds me of Nebraska canceling the home and home with Tennessee, and the response to it, oh, they want to play, they're scared, whatever they want to say about both programs, or mostly Nebraska. It makes sense, but it also doesn't, because didn't the playoff committee establish kind of a baseline last year where Notre Dame, who loses to NIU at home, NIU didn't win the MAC, people. They weren't a great football team, and still makes it all the way to the national championship game. So why does the one Notre Dame game feel like it would hold more water to these programs than that would? So that's where I kind of get lost in it. It's like, I don't think USC, let's say they win every Big Ten game, or even drop one and then drop a Notre Dame game. I still think they're getting in at 2 losses. Why wouldn't they?
Here's the thing. We're going to be at 16 teams in 2 years anyways.
Ain't going to matter, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it feels like a moot point
in 10 years
to cancel, especially a rivalry. Yeah.
If I'm USC, I'm worried about just winning freaking 9 games. I ain't worried about how I get like, that's probably the whole thing, is like, you're worried about the wrong things. Like, if you're good and you built the thing the way you're supposed to, that should be a 50-50 coin flip every year. Rather than being like, I'll take my UC Davis win and my Southern Utah and whatever game, and, keep your Notre Dame game in there. You should be winning these games. You should have a shot to be Notre Dame every single year. Notre Dame's not always going to be top of the tier, just like USC wasn't always top, cream of the crop in this sport. It's a little frustrating to see. Like, I will go back to this nonstop. It makes me think South Carolina, Clemson. Once one domino falls, does that one fall? Florida State, does that domino fall? Like, there are a billion of these rivalries within the sport, and it's the foundation. Like, there was a whole week dedicated to these things, and it's just like, it's not that big of a deal. So we'll just kind of handle it how we want to handle, and if we don't want to play, we don't want to play.
Yeah, and it's all fair points to make. I just keep going back on the fact that it's one game, and even which way that game goes, like what you said, Jake, where are you really a playoff team if you don't want to play that game? Like, let's say you're in right now, USC, you're in, and you go on the road to Notre Dame and you lose by 28 points. Well, we would have gotten in if we didn't play Notre Dame. We should have played Southern Utah. Like, do you think that team would have gone in and done anything anyway? So I don't know really what we're arguing here. We're just losing rivalries and what built the sport to be what it is, and got most of the fandoms in there. So it sucks. I'm sure we'll see more of it, honestly, just with the way the sport is going, but we'll stay tuned and see for that. Definitely hurts the sport. And I know both fan bases were going at each other on social media the last few days.
Yeah. The day that they start really, they've debated it a little bit. The Iowa State rivalry gets into question based on this crap. You'll find me with one of those signs and a table in front of the state capitol with some signs saying like, save college football, in-state rivalries, just sitting in front of the Capitol. I won't move. I'll be that awkward protester in front of cars. I don't care.
I didn't really see a lot of fight from the USC side, like defending their own school. Like Matt Leinart,
you need USC fans.
They were more just shitting on Notre Dame not being in a conference, from what I saw.
So it's their fault that they're not in the Big Ten.
Well, that's a common question. We've talked about it on the show before. James Franklin even going at Notre Dame saying they should be in a conference. Like, as these conferences get bigger and stronger, they're going to get more chirps here and there from all these teams.
Fall into it. We just saw last year they can do it without. And Justin made a good point in the comments. It's like
they'll never join. They shouldn't.
No.
These Big Ten and these SEC schools are bullying everybody out. We're going to cut you off, Notre Dame, and we're going to cut you off, ACC school. We're going to cut you off, Big 12 school. Oh, but we're going to put Texas and Ohio State first game of the year. We're going to play LSU, USC first game of the year. But see, we're still doing non-conference games. We're still doing big non-conference games.
Well, Notre Dame's got to play some of those on the actual road. That's the only fight I will fight for. And I know JP's right there with everybody on Notre Dame's neutral site games. They've got to get on campus.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
For a few of those.
They're not the only ones doing it, though. Georgia does it, too.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, that's true. That's true. That could be a whole nother topic. Let's go down to the next topic, because this one's going to take a lot of time too. The 2025 college football playoff set in stone. It'll be straight seeding, no more mixing and matching. Boise State's the 9 seed last year. In the final poll, they get the 4 seed in the auto bye to the Fiesta Bowl. That's no longer. Boise State, if you're the 9, you are the 9. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The top 4 seeds, 1, 2, 3, and 4, will get the buys. Conference champions are automatically in, but that does not assure them the auto bye. So it's based off the straight seeding. Everybody kind of knows what that means by now. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What do you think of it, Jake?
Let's just put the Big 12 side of things. I think it's a good thing. I really do. I know that they took the money. They're still going to get the money that they're paid for. At least the conference champ will, like they did when they got the auto bye, which is good. I think you got to hold something above the Power Two's heads if you're going to get away with this. But I think the Big 12 this year has teams good enough to host a home game. And I think that a Big 12 team will. You can clip it if you want. So I think that this would be I would rather see Arizona State play in, Sun Mountain Stadium on a first round game, welcoming in an SEC school, rather than them getting the bye and playing in the Sugar Bowl against, Texas that they played in the Sugar Bowl in Atlanta. Like, I don't care. And if anything showed us from last year, the teams that played in the first round actually had an advantage going into those auto buys. So maybe we're on to something. Maybe we get a Big 12 team to play one game. They play a tough team, they win, and then they go into a game where a Big 10 team has been sitting on 4 weeks
3
of
weeks.
rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I love it. Last year, if this were already in place because it should have been, we would have gotten Indiana, Boise State in Bloomington. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's exactly what my excitement was for it. That was my biggest frustration last year when the seeds came out. Boise State wins the Mountain West. They're 95% going to be in the college football playoff, 99%. They're going to be in the first round. And then all of a sudden they get the bye. They snagged a 4 seed, and we don't get to seeing that G5 game in Boise, Idaho on the blue turf, raising the possibility of that, because they're never really going to crack the top 4 of this G5 program. We are insanely more likely to find ourselves at a G5 program than we are not now going forward. So I'm excited to maybe see that be the case. No, they'll probably still go on the road because the college football playoff wants to make the money. But for the true fans of the sport that have been here I think they would love to see a playoff game in Boise, Idaho, or at Allegiant Stadium with UNLV this season, or whoever may get the bid. The fact that we are more likely to see that now makes me excited for it. So I'm fine with it. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, I think it's the smart move. I don't think that it does the same harm to the Big 12, the ACC, and the G5 that people are making it out to be, because I don't think they were going to get the benefit of the doubt most of the times anyway. A lot of these games and these opportunities to win games come in matchups. And if a G5 team is going to get a shot at one of those mid-tier, you call them mid-playoff tier power conference teams, I think they have a fair shot to beat them. That Boise State team would have had a real shot in Bloomington to win that game. If they would have been somehow matched up with an Arizona State or we don't know what Tennessee was going to be, but possibilities are endless. It's the right thing to do, because I also don't think it hurts how this is going to work anyway. There was a lot of complaining about how you had to let more teams in, so more teams had a shot, and people were screaming about, how's this going to happen? The parity is not there in college football. It is in a week-to-week regular season, because that is why we love the sport as a regular season. We don't live for the playoff. We live for the 12, 14 weeks, from August until November. That is college football. That's the entity. That's where parity lies sometimes. It does not live in who wins national titles. And you saw it again this year. You saw the best teams in the Final Four, and you saw the 2 best teams play for a national title. That's it. As simple as that. It's not going to come down to just because you got a head start or a bye as a Big 12 or an ACC or whoever. It's not how it works. You have to be the teams in front of you. And if it's a NCAA tournament model where these smaller conference teams play in some play-in games and get a shot to win again and win some more money, why would you not want that? Would you rather be able to hang something on your wall that says you won a playoff game, rather than just saying, oh, well, we got the bid one time and then we got beat, in the quarterfinals? You know what I mean?
And how much of the conversation in that national title game between 2 huge brands is this the most uninteresting national title game of all time? So we're already kind of seeing it okay, so if the title game in late January is uninteresting, we need to make these first round games interesting and make it some sort of feel like March Madness by maybe you do have Boise going on the road and beating somebody or whatever, because same thing happens in basketball. Look at all the ratings that come in the first 2 rounds that first weekend of March Madness, and then everything just steadily like declines. Because people lose interest. They want to watch the underdog, even if it's just 1 or 2 games. They like parity, like you said, JP.
It's frustrating because it's not a sport that's built on it, and it never was, right? Like it has great stories, and it has some, really cool moments with smaller schools or a team upsetting somebody on a random Saturday in October or whatever.
See, that's the thing, though. Random Saturday in October.
Yes.
Few and far between are going to be.
Yeah, not random Thursday in January.
Yeah.
But it's tough for me because like some people are really upset about it, and I don't think it really makes anything. You saw so many people complain about the first round of the playoff this year.
Yeah.
This fixes that theoretically, right? Like this changes who gets matched up with who. You don't have a team in Texas get to play Clemson. You're lucky it was Clemson Texas got to play. You imagine if Boise State went in there and got thumped. You watched Indiana get thumped. They drove 45 minutes. I don't know the actual drive, what it is from Bloomington to South Bend, but it ain't far. Pounded. You watch SMU go into Happy Valley. Pounded. I mean, this theoretically fixes that and puts teams that aren't the best in the country playing into this thing.
It fixes at least, I would have guaranteed one of those games that first round in the reseeding, one of those games in the first round would have been good. We got 0 of them. Like, I can't explain it enough, or I can't express enough how much of a blowout all of those games were. They weren't even close.
Your closest one was Clemson, Texas, and that was only within the last 10 minutes of that game.
2.5 quarters.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's just, and then I'm not going to complain. I was like, I got it. I thought SMU was going to be competitive in that one. I thought Indiana was going to give Notre Dame real fits. They did not. Like, there's only so much you can do in this sport. Sometimes it doesn't go your way. It's very matchup based. And complaining about the seeding of this thing when the worst thing's about to happen next year is just not where I want to put my stress in this sport.
All right, let's leave that there. Straight seeding is in the college football playoff going into the season. We will talk more about it throughout the season, preview season, and going forward. Let's go to the last point because this one's a little bit confusing. We got to let Jake tell you the layman terms the best possible. We're going to talk about a Ross Dellinger article from Yahoo Sports breaking down basically it's a contract I took away from it that has to be signed, basically has to be signed with some pretty stiff repercussions for these programs that don't opt into it to basically work their way around what they're trying to do with the House settlement and revenue sharing itself. Jake, any more info on that and that you can make it more clear to the viewers?
Yeah, I'll try to tell the brief timeline of it all because I don't think we've talked about it really much in our news. And honestly, none of us have a law background or a law degree, so we really aren't the experts to explain.
I have half of a political science degree, 1 semester.
There you go.
That count?
And it might, so you might be the one to understand this, but I feel like it's so important that the news of what's going on to the sport is very important. So it needs to be talked about at least in some sort of fashion. So I'll basically start it back from the beginning of the month. So earlier this month, if you guys saw, President Trump proposed to create this college sports commission. It's going to oversee NIL and revenue distribution in college sports, basically just football and basketball, let's be honest here. And it's going to be led, I don't even really know. Is it going to be led or is it going to be run by this Texas Tech booster / billionaire, Cody Campbell, who I didn't have any idea who that was before this even started. Basically, with the revenue sharing that's going to be kind of passed through, I don't know. We're expecting early July, but it's
July 1, yep.
Keeps getting pushed off, but we'll see. So we're still in the court process of an official ruling on that law being passed. But basically, once it goes through, Tennessee state officials are prepared to take legal action on this House settlement, basically paving the way for every school in the state of Tennessee to sue the NCAA if they prohibit super strict rules on third-party collectives and NILs. We're assuming that what's been written out, this revenue share that'll get thrown through, there's like only 10% of third-party NIL deals that are actually going to be legal, which are pissing off a lot of people. So you can't get your tackle, your second-string tackle, to go to the car dealership and get $1 million. Like, they're cracking down on this stuff and what's actually allowed and what's appropriate within the quote unquote market. So where this new CSC is what they're going to call it, it's basically going to be the NCAA for Power 4 schools. Their plan is to construct a first of its kind document that says if the universities sign it, they will not be able to sue for the revenue sharing. They didn't say the state of Tennessee can't sue though. So we'll see when that gets there. But basically, if they sign this document, Tennessee, the University of Tennessee cannot sue the NCAA, cannot sue the College Sports Commission for them basically holding back more money than they could make than the regular $15 million cap, essentially. Here's the catch. If the schools don't sign the contract, the College Sports Commission is threatening to kick these schools out of the conference and prohibit them from playing other power league opponents. I don't know. I call bluff. But lastly, the latest news we've heard today is that Trump and the White House are actually pausing the plans on this CSC now, and partly in due just to wait on the answer from the revenue sharing thing in July. Ted Cruz was mainly responsible for this pause. And Cody Campbell, I guess, will continue to work behind the scenes on creating this College Sports Commission when it's ready to take place, when we get this revenue stream. My very simple take on this is I'm super skeptical about it. I think the fact that these states and these schools are already trying to find loopholes and dirty their way up by paying their players under the table again, if this revenue sharing gets approved, it just goes to show there's no ethics in college football and there's no morals, and people are just going to do whatever it takes to win. And I just think we're kind of screwed. But this one of a kind document, it feels like for the first time we might have some power over the schools and over the players' heads. Because I'm NIL, I'm pro NIL, but there just needs to be some sort of regulation. I think it's utterly ridiculous how the second string tackle at Mississippi State gets to be paid $2 million to go there. And he might just end up at Toledo by the time he's a senior because he'll never see the field. But he made $2 million.
That's a good place to kind of round it out as far as the topic goes. But what you said at the end, where it's just messy. That's what the NIL world has been. And now it's going to get even messier because whether or not it's right, the precedent's been set and these kids are getting paid this money. So anyway, you're going to try and take these third-party collectives out of the mix and that money that's streaming through those, because there's a lot. It's going to get real messy with these players. They're not going to let it go lightly. And the schools like it because it gives them a competitive advantage if they have a better collective than the next. If you cap that or take that out of the mix and it's just revenue sharing, you are going to piss a lot of players off that already make a lot of money. And there's going to be almost, it feels like it could lead to an NFL strike level of thing. Because if you start taking kids' money out of their pocket, that's not going to go over smoothly. And I don't think people are clear enough on it's NIL. People call it NIL, but do the majority of people know that it stands for name, image, and likeness? Because if you think about it, you signing up to donate $25 a month to Pokes for Good or whatever your team's collective might be named is not NIL. That's just you gifting money to a kid so he plays for. It's supposed to be something with his name on it, his image on it, or something along the likeness, like let's say an NCAA video game in the past where you can tell it's him without being him. That's the target behind it. It's nowhere near what the name is. Mm-hmm. It's just money.
And let's be clear, like once this NIL or this revenue sharing goes through, basically like a second string SEC player will still have the opportunity to make $50,000 to $100,000 for doing nothing, just for being on a big brand school. And that's a lot of. Do you guys imagine we're not that far removed from college.
Dude, like if I got $5 on a Thursday for a pitcher of beer at the shithole down the street, that was like a great week. The fact that you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars as an 18 to 19-year-old kid actively in college, come on.
But here's where they made the bed. This is where the NCAA made their own bed. That kid who will make $100,000 being the second string D tackle on an SEC school, he's going to be pissed because he knows right now Alabama's already paying their second string D tackle $500 to maybe $1 million that transferred in from TCU. And he's like, I'm getting $100,000, whatever. Like they're college kids. They have no concept of what money is. They just see what guys have gotten before them. And that's the bed they've made. It's gonna be gross.
And a lot of these hiring guys for the GM position, which we've seen throughout this entire college football offseason, are basic money managers. They are distributing the funds to the talent the way they see fit. That's why they have the football pass. JP, I want to get your take on it. You've been quiet over there. What do you think on this? This is obviously could be huge for the sport.
Yeah, you got to find guardrails to go on this anyway. And it feels like you have to I'm taking it as you have to make a drastic step to make any steps. Like you really have to reach to start. You can't just, baby foot your way into this thing. You really have to like dive into
You're
it.
crying over it.
Yeah, he is just a whine.
Now he's frustrated about it.
Just you have to like make a real threat at this. But the problem is there's not really anyone there supporting the players. There's no, there's nobody from that part of it, which is like there should be somebody there, right? And there should be someone there, talking for the G5 schools. But the biggest problem to me right now is that you can do this, but don't let it be run by people who just on the business side. Like it needs to be run by people within the sport who understand the sport, been in the sport for amount of time. And it cannot get forced onto people like this just overarching, angry contract that now everybody hates. Like the problem with what Tennessee's trying to do is that they know that they're going to be able to do it and they're going to do it anyway. But if we go into legal first, maybe there's a shot that we can do this, and they won't be the only ones that end up doing it. They're just the ones that are very outspoken. Like this is going to happen. This is how we're going to handle it. Again, like if it gets to a point where like there's a cap, but it's not ever enforced anyway. Like I'm more worried about the mid to bottom of the power conferences. Like they are really in trouble because a lot of these schools can't afford to do this. They can afford to do it as it's set up now. You can see the money discrepancy within schools and where they're at.
$40 million. There's 8 schools paying at least $40 million. There's public knowledge. That's a crime.
I'm sorry, but the way the sport works and how fast NIL came in and how it's basically pay for play got ramped up so fast and so hard that the kids that are what they're making now, they're not worth the money you're paying them now. Like they are not $2 million quarterbacks. They are not $7 million power forwards. They are not $6 million quarterbacks. They're not. That's just how it works. But you're paying them now because it was the Wild West. You threw this out there and people could do whatever they wanted and they had to outbid everybody with no real, obligations or guardrails or anything. And it just got out of whack so fast that people think this is the market. That's not a normal market. That's not how this works. This is why economies burst. If you're going to go into the economics of the whole thing, the sport will burst if it just does not get anything. So you had to be aggressive fast. Do I agree with everything that this College Sports Commission wants to do? No, because I know for a fact that they're not going to take care of the little guys. But you can't let this go on. You cannot.
Well, and they're like the guys who are basically the agents of it all, who are going to go back and sue on behalf of their players. They're like, well, what's the market? Like my player can get paid as much as he can. No, we can't. Like, I'm sorry. Carson Beck making $4 million this year that's got to be more than Cam Ward's rookie contract with the Titans, right? Like it's ridiculous. It's not
outside of your signing bonus, 100%.
So there should be a rule. That should be the market. No quarterback in college football should be getting paid more than a first-round NFL draft pick because that's the market. Professional sports, that's where your market is.
It's almost like a restaurant menu, like market price. Like you're going to get the lobster market price. And I think brings up a good point. I've always thought maybe one of the baby steps and the gigantic steps that JP was mentioning, maybe just as simple as a cap. Like you can be the best player in the world. I don't care if you pay all 3 left tackles $1 million, but you're not making over $1 million. And it doesn't have to be $1 million. I just threw that out there. But even if you say you're a freshman, most you can make is $400,000. That's all you can make. It levels the playing field. You got to pick where you can go and not just off the highest dollar amount. So maybe a dollar cap. Any thoughts like that from you guys on maybe the first baby step around this gigantic one that seems like it's going to happen?
Again, I think it's a good idea, just like the College Sports Commission idea. I think they're good ideas, but you don't have any legal how can you tell someone that the market is only $400,000 for a freshman? they'll go to the courts and they'll be like, look at all of Ryan Williams's TikTok followers. If he throws an advertisement up there for so-and-so, he's worth $5 million. How can you tell him that? I like your idea. There's so many.
So you're saying across, because I guess I should have elaborated on it. It should be from the collective, because I don't want to kill the collectives, because there's a lot of cool products that have come from these things, like the beers and beef jerky, whatever it may be. But like whatever the brands want to pay them, you can cap that and say, hey, the max a brand can pay you is 50 grand. But there's just got to be these set limits, so it's not H&H Honda throwing 600 grand and this company's throwing 60.
There should be a cap on guys who make money off the revenue share, because we talked about that second string tackle who nobody wants to make an NIL deal with him. Like the most you could pay him is 200 grand, because nobody's making money off his advertisements, but he can still make money for playing, but we can't go and pay him $2 million.
I don't know. I guess I could double check. I haven't talked to the owner of Amigos, the fast food chain, but the Jeff Sims meal had to have made them a good amount of money. He had his face on that for a couple months. So I don't know how much they benefited from that. But all right, that wraps up that conversation. We'll obviously keep you updated as we learn more on that situation. It's obviously bigger news and maybe one that slid under the rug with all the other news this week, but we will keep you updated nonetheless. Let's go to one of the main points of tonight's show, and that is the mailbag. Before we do that, we want to stop and remind you, hit the subscribe button. We need 9. Maybe we got to 9 by the time now. I'm not actively checking it. Hit it, though. Go on there, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on this show. We love you. Hit your stickers. Play the Fight Song stickers available. Just hit our DMs, $10 delivered right to your doorstep. Those are still available. And Shop No Rivals are good partners over at No Rivals. Use the code PTFS at checkout on all of your awesome collegiate hats and headwear for the upcoming season. Shout out No Rivals. Check them out. ShopNoRivals.com today. All right, now let's take some mailbag questions. We had 2 or 3 dropped in the chat and both on Twitter earlier this week. Let's start with this one. This one comes from Justin Paul Sports over on X. Are Texas and Georgia going to be able to replenish their draft losses and with their new quarterbacks, or does Alabama take the SEC this season with their more veteran-based group? What do you think, Jake?
Well, all 3 of them. It's an interesting question, and I get where Justin Paul's coming from, but all 3 of them are going through quarterback changes, so there's a similarity between the 3. All 3 of them rank in the top 5 though of returning production. So I know Alabama's 2 right now, and they do have a really good veteran group, like he said. But all 3 new quarterbacks leads me to think, like, if you're going through a new quarterback, anything can happen. And I think these teams are susceptible to that as well. I know that there's talent everywhere else in the field for them, but it's the most important position on the team for a reason. Texas and Georgia, I thought they both went into the spring portal and replenished some good defensive line pieces that I think they desperately needed. They picked up the Jack Endries kid, Texas did, from Cal, the tight end. We'll learn his name when we go through preseason stuff. He's going to be a stud. He's replacing Gunnar Helm. I guess Alabama has guys back like Keon Sabb, LT Overton. So it just kind of depends. I think they're both really talented. Alabama just has more familiar faces. So it's safe to trust Alabama, I guess, with everything they have back. But at the same time, Sark and Kirby have been really successful in this position in this league for a few years now. So we'll see if Kalen DeBoer can get it turned around in year 2.
Your thoughts, JP?
Yeah, I'm not. I guess, again, we'll get into preview season on these teams. I'm not as high on Alabama as others, it feels like, this year. But I think that they both replenish well. But obviously the highest these teams are going to go with whatever their new quarterbacks take them. Most confidence probably lying within. I want to say Arch, but I'm not 100% sure. It's between him and Sayan probably on confidence level for their quarterbacks. I'm not
Simpson.
a big. What?
You said Sayan, it's Simpson.
Oh, Simpson.
Other new guy.
Yeah, no, not talking about Colorado.
Just looking at those teams, like they all recruit really well out of high school, and that helps a ton, right? It's supplemented by the portal. It's not built by the portal. So I think the SEC is pretty wide open right now. These 3 teams would be in the conversation. You could probably sprinkle some other teams within the SEC saying that they have a shot to get on top of that conference here too. A little too early to say, I guess, before I really get into these rosters and how the schedule lays out for each of them.
when I thought of this question, I tried to answer just in my own head, which program do I have the most confidence in from the top, just coaching wise? And Texas came to mind, but that might just be a bias of we've seen a little bit more from Arch than we've seen the other quarterbacks at their position. So you kind of get an idea of what he can be or has grown to be at this point because he's going on, his third year at the program versus, we saw Stockton a little bit. We didn't see that it wasn't blow-away performances like we've seen Arch make some plays throughout his time. And then Alabama, like you mentioned, JP, we haven't seen a lot from Simpson. Obviously, he's out of Alabama. He's a great football player. But out of those three, the quarterback position's uberly important in college football, as it is in any football. But in college football especially, it feels like. And Texas just seems to be in a spot to me where I wouldn't say that Alabama feels like they're going to overtake them just because of the experience of their group altogether. I think almost the young talent at Texas would be starting at Alabama in some spots. That's just where their program's at. So Texas, to me, still feels like a standout out of those three. But Alabama definitely could be in the mix. I like that question. So appreciate Justin Paul Sports on X for sending that one in the chat. Check his profile out. Throw him a follow. We appreciate him. The other one comes from our other former co-host or current co-host and Iowa State fan perspective guy, JT Schaefer. This one came via Instagram. What is the best game each of you have seen in person? This one's fun. This could be a question of the day candidate. It's so fun. It's all based off our own personal college football experiences for episode 100. Let's go Jake first. Jake, your best game you've ever seen in person. You don't get to say the blowout against BYU or West Virginia, whatever.
Parks, can I guess yours when you're up? I think I know your answer.
What would it be? What do you think it would be?
The Oklahoma, what was that, 2010 Oklahoma, Nebraska night game?
Yeah, I guess, which best game being like close game, best
game
outcome.
You've ever been, just the best game you've ever been to.
I mean, that game was awesome. That would be probably top two, if not my top pick.
I would say, and then number one would be Colorado this year.
Colorado was a good one. I talked about this. It doesn't seem very important to the general consumer, and obviously it didn't matter on the national scale. But after taking the $400 out of my account to drive to Boulder, get beat by 26 points the year before, and then to welcome in to Lincoln and just take it to him for 4 quarters. Yeah, it felt good. It felt like the best experience. I mean, it was an out-of-body experience, but I wouldn't say best two teams on the field at that time. Oklahoma, Nebraska was pretty close.
I'm just flexing my knowledge on my friend here. It's just I just know my friend, I guess.
Yeah, maybe I need to get some new stories. I need to get out some more games. Apparently, what's your pick?
For me, I think I was there for Oklahoma State in 2011 when Iowa State beat them, but I have West Virginia in 2018. Brock Purdy's coming out party, first start in his career, obviously catapulted it into his career and what he is now. West Virginia at the time was 7-0. The Will Greer, was it David Sills? I think, wasn't that the receiver, David Sills?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Good. That team beat Texas on a miraculous Hail Mary, I think the next week. And just Iowa State gave it to them that night. The first night, I think they ever wore the black uniforms as well. A lot of kind of first.
Black and white.
It's one of the underrated games of the early Matt Campbell days of what catapulted the program to where it is now. A lot of people think the Oklahoma game in Norman that comes to mind is his first signature win, but this was obviously the next year. That win against West Virginia was a big deal, and Iowa State was still coming off of a good year the year prior, but it was okay, can Campbell continue to do this? And then they struggled. They lost at Iowa early, a couple other games, and then they bounced back and destroyed a top 10 team that night, and it felt like made Iowa State a consistent team in the Big 12 after that.
All right, JP, you're up. Before we do so, drop in the comments if you're listening to this clip or this live. Drop in the comments what your best experience at a college football game, the coolest game you've ever been to, seen. Let us know. What game were you in the stadium for that sticks out in your mind? JP, go ahead, give us yours.
The best game, I'm going to go with close game here because there's a lot of games I'm going to keep the Ohio State one out of there, that lopsided win, and then the Michigan State one from 2010, I believe. I was at this game in 2011. Iowa Pitt. and Iowa got down
Field goal?
early. No, this was not the field goal game. I wish I was at. That was a couple years after. They had a schedule agreement there for a little while. But Pitt was in Iowa City and was just, I mean, they were up 24-3 or 24-7, like just kind of running Iowa a little bit. And Iowa came back, scored 28 unanswered. Kevonte Martin Manley, if you guys remember that name, that's a heck of an Iowa receiver pull. 28 unanswered from the Hawks, and they won that game. Being, the age I was, probably like 12, 13, somewhere in there, and watching 28 straight. And like those years were like, that's coming off really good 9, 10 years for Iowa. 11 and 12 weren't great years for the Hawks. But 28 unanswered in Kinnick against, I mean, those were pretty solid Pitt teams. Obviously, they weren't the same Pitt teams you see now the last couple of years, but that one is just ingrained. It's kind of off the board a little bit, but just how crazy that game got late was, I mean,
can you recall who the Pitt quarterback was? I'm actually curious. I can't think. I would have zero idea.
Kenny Pickett, I believe.
I can tell you who the guy standing under the field goal post is at the game that Parks was referring to. Tyler Boyd. He was he was standing back under that, and he's the one looking straight up at the goal post. The ball falls like right over his head, barely over the post. I think he was an All-American at Pitt. I cannot remember the name of the Pitt quarterback that year. But this is before they rebranded back to the script. Remember, they went through the phase, there was the Navy and gold, and then they switched back to the script Pitt and kept that Navy and gold, and then they fully went back. But that one will forever be in my brain.
All right, here's a comment in from Jay Bird. Iowa at PSU, Penn State, I'm assuming, in 2007. JP, you remember that game at all? I believe Jay Bird's a cycle.
Is this the Claiborne blocked? No, this would be
that's
earlier
2009.
Than that. Yeah, this is earlier than that. I'm trying to recall this one. 2009 was the Claiborne blocked punt where like he goes in and goes, whoo, the whole crowd's like trying to get amped up and he blocks it, takes it back. I'm trying to recall the 07 game.
Is that the one where they won like 6-3? I think I saw somebody
might be
repost this on social media. Let me ask you guys this. Who is the best player you've ever seen in person?
Ndamukong Suh. It's not even close.
Say, I feel like that's
okay. Well,
2007 was not that one. I think he's thinking 2009 because 07 we got beat by 20. Man, I didn't really have to think about that. There's been a lot run through there.
Opponents, Parks, non-Nebraska players.
Okay, that's a good question. I mean, I could go through. I mean, I saw Adrian Peterson play. He was unbelievable.
That'd be a good answer.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, there was a lot of players back in the Big 12. I mean, college football players were outside. They were great in college. Doesn't matter what happened after. Todd Reesing was up there as a college football player that I saw.
Yeah,
he threw for 980 yards against Nebraska.
Dude, I'd really have to dive into what games I was at and who was there on those teams at the time.
I was trying to think of. I went to like a 2009 Oklahoma State at Nebraska game where they beat us. No, it wasn't 2009. It would have been like 2006. Oklahoma State at Nebraska. They beat us 45-3. I'm trying to think who played on that Oklahoma State team that year, but they looked like gods compared to that Bill Callahan team. So that they were pretty talented compared to what we had then. But I mean, there's so many players that cross, especially those old Big 12 days that you would have forgotten about, Jake, that were outstanding. What's yours?
Blackman was good, but
yeah,
I honestly, like, I don't think I've ever seen a human faster than Kyler Murray in person. That was like jarring. Like, I usually, like, obviously Division I guys that kind of
those little legs
usually look the same. Like, he looked like he was just playing a different sport than the rest of the guys on the field. I was blown away. I'd never seen a guy that fast in person and just getting away from everybody.
I always throw this fun factoid out, and you guys have heard this before, but fun fact, my cousin was actually the only person to ever sack Kyler Murray in high school football in Texas. One guy, he had one sack in 4 years as a starter at Allen High School. My cousin was the guy who sacked him in the state title game.
You better have that picture.
He's a plumber now. Shout out Marshall.
What year was that? Here,
wait, JP's over there grinding this Iowa.
Dude, I'm trying to remember.
Justin's got a good point. This was fun. Texas, Colt McCoy. We went to Applebee's at halftime after they were up. I think Texas was up, 49-0 at half. We just went to the Bees because
almost won the second half. If it was 49-0, you guys compete.
It was I think it was raining or it was cold that day. Yeah, that's a good one, Justin. That was a beat. I forgot.
I mean, there's a lot of games. What about, let's go the other side of it while JP goes. What about, would that be the worst game you've been to? As you can remember, I mean, you were out of the stadium by halftime, sitting there probably eating mozzarella sticks and spinach artichoke dip. So that's got to be up there.
Missouri 2008, I believe. I want to get this right. I believe it was Gene Chiswick's last game. Iowa State didn't have a chance. Jeremy Macklin's another good player I saw in person. Chase Daniel come in and shellacked them.
I watched Nebraska dismantle that team twice. That'd be up there for one of my better memories.
I genuinely, I mean, the Texas Tech game in 2022, those two games, Missouri 08, Texas Tech 22, I could probably count how many people were actually in the stadium. Texas Tech in 22, when it was negative 15 degrees outside, and Iowa State got stuffed on the goal line twice. I think there was legitimately probably 8,000 people by the fourth quarter in that game, all down in the bowl. Like that's something you'll just never forget.
Yeah, I was obviously with the stage Nebraska's gone through the last decade. It's there's a lot of hated games out there for me. The Georgia Southern ones got to probably take the cake because of the opponent. It was actually kind of fun for like a quarter and a half because it was just both teams scoring. And you figure sometimes it's going to stop on the Georgia Southern side. It never did. But that one, and then 2 weeks later, Scott Frost gets fired after that Georgia Southern game. You get the week off. Here comes Mickey Joseph and company. You got a little bit of life. Nebraska comes out and scores. No, Nebraska comes out and scores in the first 10 seconds of their offensive possession against Oklahoma.
Yes.
Got absolutely crushed. And that is the only time I can name how many people are in the stands at Nebraska. 49-14 dismantling after they fired Scott Frost with Mickey Joseph and company. That's pretty bad memory. I mean, I looked around and I even sent out a tweet just pissed, like, don't come back when the grass is greener.
Waiting.
Yeah. I mean, it's greener than that. Don't get me wrong. It's significantly greener than that.
It's red now.
What's with the red end zone?
Hey, first time ever. Hey, you don't know. Right. It doesn't look that bad.
Terrible.
Just keep your grass bullshit in Ames. I don't want to look at your dead grass.
Keep it green and red yellow lettering. I think it looks terrible.
I don't know until they finish the end zones. I hate the practice turf. I've stood on it since they got it in the end zone and in the actual practice facility. If they match it to the practice turf, it's really bad.
So it's not official that the end zones are going to be red.
No, it's officially the end zone will be red, but in the practice field, the Huskers and the Nebraska only takes up like the middle portion of it, like shrunk down in size 12 font. Like there's a lot of just blank red on it. So I'm just praying they don't do that on the game field.
The worry is
different topic.
The white lettering, you can't get too close to the edges.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. JP, you got the worst game you've been to and the best game you've been to? Or whatever you were looking at. Sorry, I can't remember.
I was trying to think the best player I ever saw
worst
play,
game,
and it's tough.
Worst game.
Adrian Martinez 21. Is your answer, bud.
Cyhawk 22.
No, that one got me. Nebraska has gotten us at the buzzer. Iowa State's gotten us at the buzzer with me there. Purdue last second kick, like a bad Purdue team. That probably was like 2000. I think I was in high school when that happened. That Wisconsin loss I mentioned earlier, where I was trying to remember. I think I've mentioned it before. They fake punt with a couple minutes left and ran like a 60-yard punt. Like just needed the ball back and had a shot to go kick a field goal. That was about as big of a gut punch as I've ever had in my life. Just it's like somebody came at it from the woodwork and just cross body face, like clean. But I didn't get knocked out. I felt every piece of that, So I'd say one of those three. Yeah, that Nebraska one hurt a ton because that was like that. It didn't look like that ball had any chance of getting caught.
I feel like I can give the worst game you've watched, not even in the state of Iowa, but Jake and I were with you. How about Fayetteville, Arkansas, at a podunk bar where Purdue blew number 2 Iowa out?
Yeah, way too perfect of a situation though. Like it was like, oh, Purdue's coming to town. I bet they get a chance to beat us. No, just skull drag you across everything. Like never had a shot in that one. That one was tough.
Our guy GA finally in the comments. Shout out GA. Best 1997 Miracle in Missouri. That is the kick catch, courtesy of Scott Frost and Matt Davidson. And then the worst, the loss to the Buffs in 2004. Yeah, that was a bad one. We've had some bad ones to the Buff, but then I go back and I like look at the games in between, and
you don't have to be sorry for that, GA.
You don't have to be sorry. I'm glad you made it back. Hopefully you had a 1-2 few mini on a Thursday, because the boys will be all together tomorrow trying to do the same thing. Last point before we are already an hour in that we wanted to talk about briefly is we mentioned at the start of the show, we're celebrating our 100th episode this episode, but it was actually last week. Gentlemen, let's just talk about Play the Fight Song for a minute. What do you got to say over the 100 episodes we recorded together, all the countless hours you put into content creation? You thankful for the people listening? JP cracked the beverage. I don't know. I thought he just cheers in Alani.
Yeah, what
is that? Oh, shout out Sun Cruiser. No free ads.
Free ads.
No free ads. No free ads. Hit us up, Sun Cruiser.
Blur that on YouTube if you're watching.
Jake, give us a little. I mean, you've learned TikTok. Talk about the over 100 episodes, all the things you've learned.
Yeah,
that'd be a good one.
I've learned a lot, just podcasting wise, communicating, and like honestly just putting all of your thoughts together. Like, it's pretty funny. Like, honestly, I don't think we're anywhere near where we want to be as podcasters, but even just from the beginning, just like some of those sentences we've
taking out the uhs and ohs and the spacer words has been a challenge, but we've been trying to get better.
Just being more knowledgeable on the sport too. Like, when we decided that we want to do this once a week full time, like we want to actually show our passion off, but you have to at least become some sort of knowledgeable. Otherwise nobody's going to listen to you if you don't bring any information to the table. So like doing the homework and doing the research outside of this that kind of comes with it. And hopefully we provide you something that you learned this week that maybe you didn't know would be something of interest. And I think I'm excited for what we can offer this summer, like preview seasons and stuff. And I think it's going to be good. I'm excited to get into it. I have already told Justin this. I'm trying to do a preview, at least a tidbit of like what you should know on all 136 teams. I am 31 teams in. 31.
Yeah. And
so we're getting there. It's a grind.
That is an absolute grind, because you're not only creating the content, but you're researching up front and then trying to create content based off what you recently researched, which is not easy. But also
a preview magazine.
Yeah, previews are huge for us. Obviously, they were well watched last year, and we are going to do them again this year. But that is one thing I will say about our show is you're not going to find another show that previews all 136 teams, conference by conference, in depth, gives you, player of the year, coach of the years, your final predictions. You're not going to find it. They might focus on one or give you the power four, but they're not going to do all of them. And I can honestly say, I think that we are the only show in existence where you can watch it, and by the end of the entire preview season, you can know at least one thing about every team on the college football field that year. Outside of a magazine, you don't got to read it. You can just listen to us yap for an hour a week, and we'll get you taken care of. So it's been fun. JP, any thoughts on 100 episodes of this thing together?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it started as a little like pet passion project. And it's kind of grown into something like everybody's got something different, like that they love to do, right? Like, and this is just the outlet we found to let us talk college football outside of a group chat, right? So it's been awesome. Obviously, the podcast jokes fly like when you start this thing out. But
still do.
It becomes a point where it's like it rolls off your back. Like you're doing something you love. Like I don't collect bourbon. I don't collect Legos. I don't go on bike rides. I don't like, this is what I do. And if that makes me a weirdo and a sports nerd and a jock, I'm the happiest jock you ever did see. Yeah. So like it is definitely one of those things that it took a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort. And you could be doing it this way, or you could be just, let it sulk in a group chat. So we decided we talk about it all the time. It's nonstop. Let's put it on a platform. And honestly, it's been a blast. And hopefully it just continues to grow organically. And it's a tough thing to do. Let's be honest with you. It's a saturated market. There's a ton of things going on. There's 100 different places people get entertainment from. It may not only be sports, streaming things, YouTube, all the different apps out there. But this, hopefully we can get you for an hour a week. and preview season an hour and a half a week and talk college football, because you're going to want the knowledge when time comes around anyway. No one wants to be the guy next to the guy at the bar being like, oh, you ever heard of that one guy? You know what I'm talking about? You know, you got to have something to bring to the table. Don't act like you know what you're talking about. Actually know what you're talking about.
Let me ask you guys this. If you were to explain this to somebody, how would you say, what knowledge or what information do we bring to like consumers? Like, because like obviously we don't work for 247, you know, we don't work for this full time. Mm-hmm. It's like I listen to Play the Fight Song because they do what?
It's a new look with old college football hearts. That's really what it is. They accept the changing landscape, or we accept the changing landscape, but we also appreciate the sport for what it was built on, which is kind of hard to find, because it seems everybody's going forward with everything and just covering the news, but giving your thoughts and doing the research that we do week over week to give you thoughts with backed opinions is super important to people. And let us know. We're answering our own questions, but let us know in the comments. What do you think we do well? What could we improve on? We want to be here for a while. We love the sport. We appreciate you so much for listening, but let us know your thoughts, because we're trying to improve as much as you want the show to get better. So let us know. JP, go ahead and answer Jake's question.
Yeah, I'd say I try to be unique and authentic in my answers and stuff, and I think that's what we do. We're guys that have literally no say in how the sport's run. We have opinions on it. We have no say in anything. We're not tied to anything. We're just fans of a sport that we grew up around and will continue to have, you know, close to us for the rest of our lives. So just trying to be relatable in that aspect. You're a college football fan that just wants football to be football, and you want it to continue to be the same thing it is. So we're not shoving content down your throat to be like, this is how it should be and blah blah blah. Like, trying to be relatable as guys from states who we don't do professional sports. Like, that's not what we grew up on. We grew up on this, and that's why we love it.
Also, regionality, I think, makes us unique. Like, a lot of the big college football media guys, or let's be honest, they have some sort of tie to an SEC school. I mean, go and find one. There's not usually a podcast that doesn't have a big tie to a big program. Let's look in the comment here. I didn't even miss it.
Improvement, Jake's mic.
That's exactly why we get on
that
every
is
episode.
The most
that's why you buy the stickers. You buy the stickers, and then we can get him a new mic.
I'm gonna get a new computer for Christmas and whatever. But no, I do think, like, you think of the big college football brands or podcasts, like a lot of them are tied to an SEC school. We come from Iowa and Nebraska, where we have Power 4 schools that we root for and history that we back it up, and our programs are pretty solid. But like, I don't think we just worship every SEC school. And I think we're also a fan base that doesn't root for national championships being the success or failure of our programs. Like, we just want to see good college football. We want to see rivalries renewed. We want to see good games. We want to just, like, I don't know, the games that we attend it's more than just the result itself sometimes. And I think a lot of times people are just mad, crazy SEC people, where it's, if you're not winning a national championship, then what's the point, kind of thing. And that's not this show.
All right. That's a lot of thoughts. We appreciate all your feedback that you can give us. Jay Brewer with a great chirp at Jake's mic. GA with a nice comment afterwards saying that reminds him of his time with his friends in college. Hey, if that's where we fit, that's where we fit. We were all roommates. We love this sport with a passion, but we also know a lot of G5 regionality, like GA mentioned. Like not a lot of people out there would know Parker Navarro last year at Ohio. We do. That's just the sickos we are. So we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate you immensely for sticking with us. If you joined later than our first episode, we'll keep you forever. So get your stickers, shop no rivals. We love you. We'll see you next week. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, get us to 900. Let's get to 1K before kickoff season, preview season, and all this awesome content will get us there. Jake, take us away.
Again, like I said last week, here's to 100 more. Let's play it.